I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Johnny Smith.
And this is Smith and Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things.
In a hotel room. With all the glamour of a nearby stream.
It's a swollen stream.
It's a swollen stream and net curtains.
We've had a rainy December, and the waterways of Britain are pregnant with water,
Swollen waterways of the United Kingdom.
Bulbous with water they are. The lakes and rivers of Great Britain.
I tell you what, the floor mats are bulbous with bloody water in half my cars. I've mended one leaking Honda, the other one still allows moisture.
Did you end up using that Captain Tolly's crack creepy thing?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Captain Tolly's creeping crack cure.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if I got
I
that
did
right.
use it, and it worked. The Element had a combination. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I've had leaking Honda issues.
It was on a previous podcast, but I can't remember when.
Yeah, it just coincided with the annoyance that both Hondas were letting in water, and I fucking hate cars that leak. I'd rather have a car that was misfiring constantly, I think.
Really?
Well, in a way, you get damp. You get in it and it's damp.
Yeah.
The windscreen is dewy on the inside, with such raining down on the dash, which is shit.
Yeah, that's annoying.
And I don't know. I just don't like the idea of sitting in a damp cabin for hours.
Damp is never used in a positive context.
Moist.
Try and think.
Moist.
Well, that's a different thing. But damp, just damp. No one ever goes, "Oh, good, it's nice and damp."
Yeah, of course. If we booked ourselves into this hotel room, we walked in. It's very damp underfoot. This feels homely.
We pride ourselves on damp here at the Moisture Hotel, and I just don't. I can't think of anything. We go, "What's the weather for tomorrow?" It's going to be damp. Oh, great.
Yeah. No one
damp
does that.
is unless damp in the other sense, damp as in, oh, these new Olins have really damped the ride on my car. That's better.
True.
But damp in the sense of where there's water involved.
If you're a suspension engineer, do you ever call yourself a damp engineer, or is that a bit dodgy?
I work in the damp department.
Rising Damp.
Yeah, again, not a good thing.
Rising Damper. It's an amazing documentary all about Dakar spec suspension.
But then immediately falling damper as it comes over a crest. No, I know what you mean. A damp car.
This pisses me off, man.
And it's the fogging up, isn't it?
It is in this kind of weather in the UK.
Yeah,
it's a challenge. Weather. It's a challenge for cars anyway. Ungaraged cars. By the way, if anyone's got a huge golfing umbrella, and I mean like say 6 foot diameter, no 6 meters, 6 meters diameter.
It's not an umbrella,
like a huge parasol.
A hang glider.
Listen, if you're a pub owner and you're closing down, sadly, but you've got loads of parasols, can you let me know?
Yeah, that's a parasol. Well, it's not a parasol, is it? It's an umbrella.
Sort of pubby parasol things.
Why?
I want to put a couple of cars underneath one. I don't have a bloody garage, and it's really annoying me. I've got to wait to have a building built.
What about some kind of gazebo?
I do need a gazebo.
They blow away, though, don't they?
You got to be careful when they're exposed, because you can get proper kind of like flying, like trampolines that fly onto railway lines syndrome, which nobody likes. Every time I think about railways having foreign objects landing on them and it disrupting, I don't know, within about 2 minutes it disrupts 250,000 people.
Yeah.
It always reminds me of that Keith Moon story of him buying, on a whim, of course, because he used to buy everything on a whim, a hovercraft. and he genuinely got it stuck on one of those private level crossings.
Oh shit!
And I think might have been the land adjacent to one of his gardens, one of his houses.
Yeah,
he got it stuck on like the east coast or north main line, and basically, back in those days, it cost him like 10 grand.
Oh my God.
Because they fined him because it basically hooked onto it and wouldn't unhook.
Well, you can't push a hovercraft.
No,
if it's just
no,
still not when the engine's.
Or he stalled it, or I don't know. Probably him intentionally crashed it.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, and it's in the book. It's in the book all about and the madness of Keith Moon is all true. It really is all true. We know Roger. I mean, we won't go on about it, but like Roger Daltrey had a brand new Chevrolet Corvette. And he went on holiday, parked it in his garage. Keith Moon obviously knew he was on holiday.
Oh, God.
So he broke into his garage and he pushed it out with the handbrake off and pushed it into Roger Daltrey's lake. Did you Honestly,
I don't know.
It's like a brand new fucking car.
God.
Just because in his eyes, that's just so funny.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the sense of humour failure?
Well, yeah.
Because Daltrey just went absolutely cracking.
Presumably he had it imported specially as well.
Probably, because back then, American cars were really expensive. You'd have concessionaires. Like Bauer Millet in Manchester were a famous one.
Also, they were sort of. It feels like the American cars were sort of rock star bait, weren't they? Because
completely,
that bloke from Def Leppard lost his arm in a Corvette, didn't he? There was a vet that he was driving when he had his accident, and who else had like American cars at a time when they were quite novel? I guess it's because probably they went on tour there, didn't they? And saw all these cars and get at home and went, "That's cool. I want one of those."
Well, bands sort of cut off the back of the kind of Teddy Boy era and stuff like that. The Hollies and the Tremolos and all those sorts of people. Usually, one of the guys in the band would own some massive Buick or
would they
Galaxy.
I suppose because then you can get all the band in if you're a 5-piece.
Yeah,
you can still get everyone in quite comfortably in like a Galaxy or something. But
if you want to, there's shed loads of photos of that sort of thing. Basically, the bands would go because, of course, a photograph was a special occasion then. Now it's just, you can just spunk any old pictures off on your phone. But back then, it was like, let's assemble for a photo, guys. And my friend Kieran Morn, who does Rockstar's Cars, look him up on Instagram and Twitter. Rockstar's Cars. He's constantly finding archive pictures of bands. Just usually a lot of Woolarding. A load of Woolarding.
Yeah, because I've seen some of the pictures he puts on Twitter, and they are always bands just clustered around what presumably was their sort of touring car that they would in their early days, or maybe they're just sort of their first made a few quid car.
Yeah, and there's some quite average cars that I quite like. So like you get there's one of Mick Jagger, I think, leaning against a brown Morris 1100, and you just go, it's not even like a cool thing. But then there's that Ayrton Senna photo that Tamiya UK has, where when Ayrton was a young budding driver, they sort of sponsored him. When I think he was with Lotus. He was with Lotus back then when he was very young, and he used to race RC and build RC model kits, right? So they went to a testing day and gave him a couple of kits. And there's a photograph of him looking at an RC kit or a box of one on the boot of a Mark 5 Cortina 2 litre S. And you just go, what's the last car I'd expect Ayrton Senna to go here? I don't know if it was his. I don't think it was.
No, but it's just that sort of greatness in the presence of ordinariness is kind of interesting. And because you sort of don't... You imagine someone as fated as him just exists in a rarefied atmosphere, but no. He's lent on a Ford Cortina at some point.
Completely.
Well, he did. I mean, because he was, and I guess like a lot of the Grand Prix drivers from overseas who came to Britain because it was sort of the home of F1, they did actually live very ordinary lives. There's an Ayrton Senna road in Tilehurst near Reading, because he lived around there for a while.
Just like in digs.
And it's just, and it's just a suburban area near Berkshire. It's nothing exceptional. It's not, he wasn't living in Kensington or anything, far from it. He didn't have that much money, I guess, because he was a, aspiring racing driver over from Brazil. But he's, so he sort of...
Airbnb-ing it in a Mark 5 Cortina. He had a sleeping bag in the back and a Sony Walkman, and that was it.
Well... I wonder what Ayrton Senna did. I think this is probably on record somewhere, isn't it? Because if he was driving for Lotus, they probably wouldn't, in his early days there, bunged him a Lotus.
I doubt it, unless they saw the merit in it. Unless he was sort of being papped. Did he have groupies and stuff back then? Hard to know. But it does make you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder whether or not Lotus were always good at spying a quick and easy PR deal.
Yes.
Whether they might say to him, right, Monday to Friday, you've got to drive around in something shit, and that's not our responsibility. But Friday after 3 p.m, we'll let you have an Esprit of some sort.
Yeah.
But you've got to give it back by midnight Sunday, otherwise you're fucked.
Or we're just going to park an Esprit in a street in Mayfair, and we'd like you to just lean on it for a bit.
Yes.
Getting recognised.
Looking at your watch.
You can't drive the Esprit.
No.
We can't. That's not. We're
he
not
doesn't even have the
it.
keys to it.
No, you're not allowed in the Esprit, but you can lean on it as much as you want. It'll be there. We'll give you the address. I think in the 80s, though, Mercedes weren't in F1, but what they did do is strike deals with F1 drivers. They would give them cars or mates rates on cars, because I think a lot of F1 people in the 80s had. Well, Mansell's 560 SEC, great case in point.
Yeah.
I think he got He got mates rates on that, didn't he?
Yeah.
And they sorted him out left-hand drive in the UK because he wanted that, because he was driving a lot on the continent, as people used to call it.
Well, and also they did that bloody one-make race.
With the 190s, yeah.
In the 190s,
yeah.
which had like Prost and everybody, didn't they, tooling around in them.
So
do any of those cars still exist? They must have.
Oh, I don't know. That came up the other day. I was on Pistonheads, and there was a thread running on their forum. Someone said, can you think of cars where the top model has a smaller engine than other models in the range? And the first thing that came to mind was that Mercedes
Cosworth
2.3 16 and then 2.5 16, but there was a 2.6 straight 6 190 that was,
which was for the Silken Gentleman.
The Silken Gentleman. I think you could still have it with a manual, but I don't. Well, you wouldn't, would you? They were horrible, those manuals.
They were a bit notchy. My brother always used to tell me that they were dog mud, to not go near them.
But then obviously the auto would be a silken purse of a car.
You've just reminded me, the gear shifter, the gear stick on those manual Mercedes, when all the other parts of the interior are very tactile and they had a weight and a quality to them, which is why everybody remembers them. The gear stick always felt extremely rubberized, like an Action Man doll. I always felt like you were changing gear with an Action Man doll's torso that had a bit of give in it, and it just didn't feel quite right.
Is it almost as if they were trying to force you toward the automatic? I bet it's an expensive option.
Maybe they just railroaded you into it and went, we're basically not selling this to you with a gearbox.
Look, the gear lever is horrible, the change is unpleasant. Just get the auto.
Yeah.
It's what we want you to have, but we're not going to give it to you because we're Mercedes. Oh, by the way, the radio is optional as well.
I think what they did is if they sold it to you with a manual box, they intentionally forgot to put oil in the gearbox. And so it would feel okay for the first sort of 50 miles. And then everything would get a bit hot and notchy.
My car smells hot and notchy. Can you help? Yes, sir. I can order you the automatic one. I was listening to the Autocar podcast the other week, and they were talking about how Mercedes used to have the slogan, engineered like no other car in the world. Oh, that's a good slogan. And they were saying the same thing, that it's like, could you say that about Mercedes now? Because back then, you could say, hand on heart, a W124 or a 190.
Oh,
no one else made a car like that. Not in terms of like 8-year development cycle and incredible sort of sense of solidity.
It's the only car in the range that Merc has that people still go on and on about that, and it's known to even probably non-car people, is the G. But as we know, the G's not as solid as it was.
No,
they've softened it.
It does feel a bit sort of faux somehow.
Well, it's the I can't get beyond the roof gutters being fake.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
stupid, isn't it? And yes, and the very sort of slammy door fits where they're just like, they don't deliberately, because that's how G-Wagons have always felt, but it's not how they really could do them. They could make them close like an S-Class if they wanted to. But.
Well, the other day, like, I was just walking around an auction room looking at a couple of motors and all that. A couple of Defenders in there, actually. Thought you'd like them. But there was a fucking G-Wagon in there, like an old school 80s non-AMG, non-turbo diesel.
Oh, God.
2-door.
Did I see this somewhere? Maybe someone put it online. Yes.
The auction review, the preview that I did on the Late Break Show, I featured it because it had an AA badge on the front as well.
Was it a 300 GD?
It was.
Yeah. That'll be a slow car.
Oh, it'll be an absolute like sluggy tank.
I can hear that car in my head now.
That's what my brother calls them, the GD.
Gudda.
The 300 Gudda. Because that's
sort
the
of
sound
the
it
doors
makes.
make as well. But
honestly, I looked inside, because if you've never seen these, listeners, it has the gear knob, which I was just talking about, but it also has tartany seats, and it's pleasantly rural and country life. All of the opposite things of the AMGs, G-Wagons that we have, and I don't like AMGs, but yeah. There was a big sign on the steering wheel that had been put on by the auction house which just said, "Do not start it until the yellow light has gone out." It's the glow plugs.
Glow plugs, how we forget.
We honestly forget about the whole diesel glow plug phenomena. Some cars literally wouldn't start.
No.
You'd have to wait for fucking hours.
No, I've forgotten about that, because when my parents first got a diesel, a 405 diesel, and that...
Ignition on, one click, or one...
I mean, that was quite quick. It would usually... But I imagine that Merc, It's like putting the kettle on.
Go
and do something else for a bit. Come back.
It is, isn't it? It's a bit like those vintage tractors which you have to start with shotgun cartridges. But I still think do you have a starter motor? No. Do you have some firearm ammunition? Yes.
Yeah.
If you've never seen these, I mean, you'll get lost in a YouTube plug hole of vintage tractor grot.
Were they Soviet, or was that a common feature on Western tractors?
It was America. It was a lot of the ones I know were I think John Deere, because they knew that all farmers had shotguns for vermin control.
Yeah.
So they had an abundance of ammo.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, we use the same cartridge that you're always going to have.
I suppose. Yes, I guess they don't want to run out.
And I think that's where Mercedes are going wrong now. If they want to show the solidity of modern Mercedes, I want my AMG GT to be started in the car park very early in the morning. I've got a head torch and I've got some shotgun cartridges, and I'm going to smash them between two bricks.
I wonder, the sort of people who say that the whole world has become too sort of impatient and fast, and that we do, there's like the slow eating movement where people just take your time over a meal and stuff, and people always say we need to get off our screens and just embrace the world around us and things like that. But maybe the return of the glow plug diesel would be part of that movement. You don't need to rush off anywhere in your car. You need to sit for at least 30 seconds staring at a light on the dashboard until it goes off. Take your time.
I am such a big fan, though, I am quite a slow eater. I used to be in a really fast eater. I've definitely slowed it down, but that's not interesting. But I do enjoy the initial ritual of letting the car settle. We're talking about a piston engine car here, not an EV. But there's a different ritual to an EV.
Settle, I suppose. Yeah, because I do every so often. I like the idea of the car has had at least a chance to sort of not warm up, but get everything circulating.
Catch its breath a little.
Yeah, because also a lot of cars, they start quite high idle, don't they, just to light off the cats and then drop onto the slightly lower idle, and my Range Rover does that because it does a full.
That's right, like 30 seconds. I borrowed a Porsche Boxster 4-litre GTS last week in the worst British weather possible. So
how was that?
I drove in excess of 700 miles, and I'd say 300 of those were aquaplaning. I think it was a challenging week.
In touch with the road surface for 300 of the miles.
It was honestly it was challenging, but it was a hell of a car in Python green. And
Manuel or the
it was PTK.
Okay.
Sweet car. Very, very comfortable seats with the poo cookers. But and the totally hidden heated steering wheel. I think we've talked this.
Oh yes, it is.
It's like they don't want anyone to find the heated steering wheel button.
No,
it's not even labelled.
No, well, I suppose the argument would be it's an option. You'll know if you've ordered it because you'll remember. But yes,
if it's your car, you'll only need to be shown this once.
Yes, yeah. But it is funny, isn't it? Because I've borrowed a number of Porsches where you're sort of sitting in traffic and you suddenly go, "What's this?" Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
yeah.
It's like feeling. I don't know. It's like feeling your testicles for cancer, just checking for strange lumps, and then going. It's like you just putting your fingers around the steering wheel and then go. Oh,
I found a lump.
I don't remember that.
Better go to the doctor.
Should I press that? And then you press it, and then you go, being on the dash, heated steering wheel is on.
Oh, does it say that? I didn't remember that bit. Okay, yeah, so at least you know what you've done.
Oh, you know what you've done once you've done it.
Rear wheels detached. Oh, no, fuck!
No, I enjoyed the GTS.
Yeah, I haven't driven a Boxster for ages, but the last time I did, I remember when the 4-cylinder one first came out, and that engine in the basic Boxster. It's all right, but the chassis and the steering and the gear change on the manual, lovely, sweet car. But hey, you're saying this as a Boxster owner.
Well, of course, that's what I went up in the GTS to fetch the £1,100 baggy Boxster. Yeah, I did.
Now, let me ask you this: could you feel? I'm going to sound like a twat when I say this. Could you feel the DNA?
I honestly could, and I could compare aquaplaning on the way back to aquaplaning on the way up. It's just I was aquaplaning in a 21-year-old car on the way back, and it was I have to say, it was really good. And the Manuel box that I have in my box, box is sweet. It's really, and the feel of the clutch and the brake. There's that weight and quite a long travel. I'm gesticulating here when I say travel. Porsche have a really travelly throttle.
Yeah, and quite travelly clutch, don't they? Because I remember Remember when the 991
Can't stall them.
No, well, I'm sure you could try, but because your box are quite hard to store. But everything's matched, isn't it? It all feels proportionate. It's all the same sort of effort and travel, and they take a lot of care on that sort of stuff. But I went the other week. I went on a Land Rover thing.
What happens? Did you have to wear a One Life Live It t-shirt?
Everything, gilets everywhere.
One Life Live It gilet.
I was weering 2 gilets as trousers to really
did
get
you
the
put
spirit
legs
of things.
through the arms of
yes,
the
yes, it did. No, it's they just put the V8 engine. In fact, the was it AJ133, that V8, the supercharged V8 that's been in everything forever and is in my Range Rover, and they've put that into the Defender 130, the big fella.
Okay. Is that sort of mostly UAE market, American
I don't know,
market?
maybe American. Yes, American, because Americans apparently go quite big on 7-seaters. They like a 7-seater SUV. And then, V8 would be less of a concern. Because there were some other engined ones there as well, but the main purpose was have a go in the new 130 V8. And I got out of...
shape?
No, I was in a 90 with the petrol straight 6 in it, that P400, which is a really lovely engine. I've driven that in the new Range Rover, and it's a really nice, unshowy, but it's got good muscle to it, very smooth, but then makes nice little noise if you gun it. It's just a class act.
I really like 6s.
I know straight 6. Yeah, I don't like V6s so much, but
so I'm all right with a V.
Yeah,
not a V-neck. We've been there.
Yeah, see, I'm all right with a V-neck, but a V6, I'd rather have a straight neck, a crew 6 rather than a V6. Or a roll 6. I don't know what that would be. Radial engine. I'm trying to equate jumper necklines with 6-cylinder engines, but no, straight 6, lovely. But then so they said, we're switching cars now on this. They were doing this sort of off-road route, and I got into this other Defender, and I didn't even stop to look what engine it was. But as I got in, I noticed the MPG readout was 14, and I was like, I think this is the V8 then.
Wow!
And then I noticed it redlined at sort of 7, 6.5.
Significantly quicker.
Oh yeah, and it's just, that's the thing. It's also because it is the same engine as in mine, but a bit more powerful now, I would guess. But with the 8-speed gearbox, and it just sort of makes a difference.
Yeah,
it just fucks off if you wanted to. I mean, it was really, really shatting with rain, so it wasn't the time to start mucking around. But have you noticed, have you started seeing Defender 130s around? And they have got that very odd long tail look to them. But what they do, the more you see them, and then if you see a 110 then looks like one of those bobtail Discoveries that's been chopped, and you go, what? Oh, right, that's factory.
I think the 130 looks like a... when women go to the gym and they specifically try and hone themselves to have a shelf bum. I don't know if there's a name for it.
Kardashian.
Yeah, like bum. A proper kind of half-cut tennis ball kind of.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like.
It's been doing bum exercise.
It's been doing glutes, lots of bum squats.
Well, the reason I just bring this up is because I drove to this event in my Range Rover and then spent a day driving around in Defenders, and I was like, I think my Range Rover is going to feel a bit rubbish getting back into it. And actually it didn't. And not to sound too pretentious, but you sort of could feel the DNA. There are some sort of similar characteristics just to and again, it is kind of stuff like the way that they sort of react to steer. I mean, a Defender doesn't sort of wallow about as much as my Range Rover.
No.
It's funny. You know that I had a little glitch with my Range Rover the other month. No, a wire. A wire had become a bit brittle going into one of the strut tops, and so the adaptive dynamics can't work properly.
Yeah.
Defaults to its firmest setting. So warning on the dash, and then I was like, oh, okay, that's not good. Drove off, and it's like, ooh, the ride's a bit chunkier than normal. And
better though, surely.
No, because it was jiggly, and it's normally not jiggly.
Okay.
So it's basically it has adaptive suspension. It just defaults to its hardest setting because the ECU doesn't know what's going on. Really cheap, quick fix, not a problem. But it's a known thing with those. But what I was like, I wonder what it's like if I chuck it in some corners when I know that the chassis is absolutely as tensed as it can possibly be. It's like basically no better than any other time.
Like it's been tasered.
It's just the ride was jiggly, but the handling is still really wallowy. Just go, I don't know.
No one's going to ever want that.
Well, no, but the amount of effort they've put into adaptive suspension on a car that fundamentally is just so soft and roly-poly. And anyway, Defender's not like that. Defender is a bit more sort of all up together. But yeah, you could sort of go, and I don't think I was imagining this.
Well, I'm not BSing about the box.
Well, I could definitely imagine it with Porsches because they all do. There's a sort of through line, isn't there? So sort of nice steering. And
I was also staring at it when it was parked up.
What, your one or the GTS?
I parked them next to one another.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, well, that one's 90 grand, the GTS with a couple of options, and the options aren't cheap. And mine's £1,900 plus a pair of tyres plus road tax. And I just kind of went, do you know what? That's all right. That it doesn't feel shit. But talking about your supercharged V8 Jag Land Rover motor, that engine. I think you can buy them as a crate engine still. I think if you wanted to order one, I'd like to know if you can.
I don't know.
There are some JLR.
I'm sure if you went to a dealer and said I need a replacement engine, they could get you one. But
I'm pretty sure when Ian Callum worked for Jag, he ordered one with his staff discount and had it as a backup for a project that he may never do. And in the same vein, if I ever build a British hot rod, I'm definitely going to use that engine because I think it's a stunning motor. Sounds good. Power delivery's amazing.
Yeah.
And the 8-speed auto.
That 8-speed
because it's a small auto and it's a bloody amazing auto. And we've talked about it loads of times. But also, I have a hankering, for no apparent reason, to own a car where the engine is taller than the roof of the car. The Australians do this really well.
I just associate that with those chopped roof. 1930s, what would you call them?
Yeah, it's
a hot roddy sort of thing.
Yeah, a rat rod and so heavily roof chopped, and then of course they can sometimes angle the engine back, and then they put a really tall supercharger on the top
with the belt going around at the front.
With ridiculous velocity stacks, with a ridiculous bug catcher intake, to the point where there's actually no visibility on half.
No, that's what I'm wondering.
You have to drive looking down the side of the engine.
Are they usable
out
on
a junction?
The road? No, it's impossible, surely. You just
can't really see much.
You might as well wear blinkers.
Yeah. It's like a riot horse.
Are they only meant for sort of just doing drag racing, or are they?
Really? Or just driving and you need a spotter to go out for a Sunday drive.
Maybe you need someone on the roof. You know those movie cars where they build a cage and they have a remote driver on the roof so they can do stunts with the actor in the driving seat? You need one of those.
I'd just phone up Ben Collins and just go, right, Ben, I'm going out for a drive tomorrow, just for no apparent reason, sort of 50 miles around, a couple of scenic roads. Can you turn up at my doorstep at sort of 8:45? Is that okay? And you go, yeah, no problem. And he'll turn up and he'll just climb onto the roof and get himself harnessed in.
He'd love that. He loves doing that stuff.
Yeah, he loves all that.
Now this is the last podcast of 2023.
Oh gosh,
for us. No, it won't be one next week because it's Christmas, as Noddy Holder reminds us every year.
He does.
So, but I was going to. You've sort of done this, but I was going to ask you to look back on your year in motoring because you've acquired a £1,900 Boxster.
Yes.
Did you buy your Element this year, or was that last year?
I think it was the end of last year.
Okay,
so I've had it
a
just over a
full year of Element motoring, which has been a mixed bag, but getting better. Cause
I've used it. I bought it and used it hard instantly without really worshipping it. So on the whole, it's done very well. But if anyone's got a latch mechanism for the sort of invisible B-pillar door at the back on the driver's side, and they can ship to the UK really effing fast, let me know.
Is it not secure then?
It doesn't fully latch, which means it won't lock properly, which means it won't turn the ECU off when you park it, which means after 2 days it flans its battery. Which is annoying.
Wow, that's a real sort of ladder of a problem.
Yeah. It's infuriating in actual fact. But at least I know the issue.
Yes, I suppose
Before I didn't quite understand what was going on, but now we know. That's geeky.
You have some other things that you're going to reveal on your channel.
Yes.
So the 2 top secret acquisitions.
Yes.
that I'm very excited about.
I want to do. I'm thinking of doing. In fact, it might be going out within quick succession of this podcast. I'm going to do a my project cars what I own
roundup.
And at the end, I'll let everyone watch it for 15 minutes, bored out of their mind, before I drop the information and go, oh yeah, secret new cars purchased.
Do you want to do this is the way that Steve Jobs used to do Apple launch events, where he'd go, we do the full Columbo, really, wouldn't you? Just, one more thing.
I've bought 3 more shit boxes.
Yeah.
And
is it 3? 2?
There's
3?
2. It's 2.
3. 2. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it might be 3. And
there's still time.
But I do need to sell a couple of things. Maybe not cars, but other things. I've got some bric-a-brac.
Kidneys.
I've got some.
Yes. So. We won't talk about those because they're going to be revealed soon, but I think they're both very cool.
They're interesting.
Acquisitions.
They definitely aren't in the state that I want them to be, but they're... One of them was a rescue mission, and the other one was just... I don't know, like a mating ritual between 2 animals where one is definitely more interested than the other one, and just wears them down in the end. There's a bit of that.
Did you have your big peacock tail up for a bit to get
that? I did.
That's interesting. And then you've got the Allegro project still ongoing.
Yeah, the Allegro's cracking on nicely, and I'm really hoping that kind of by the end of spring it will be done. Which means when the sun properly comes out in the UK, which is never /summer, it will be absolutely on the road. I'm really, really excited about the Allegro for the first time in ages because it feels properly like it's being properly progressed.
Given that the people who are doing it tend to do a pretty good job of quality work, are you, in your mind, will you be able to use that car to sort of
tool around? I've built it, or I am building it to actually use. So I can go on a job in it. I can go to Heathrow in it if I really wanted. Don't get me wrong, it'll be compromised in so much it's rose jointed race suspension. So the suspension will be louder and it'll require more maintenance than a normal car.
Yeah.
But it will hopefully hold its own off of a track day. and
I think you mean for track work. Yeah.
And he is the track day driver. He's looking good.
So that'll be exciting.
I think it's going to be stunning because I do want it to actually work. It's going to have heating. It's going to have seats that are fairly comfortable. It's going to be fully upholstered.
In tube fabric.
We're putting a stealth. It's not a cage. Sort of a stealth half cage in it at the moment. So within the sills, we've got tube reinforcement that ties all the front structure to the back structure.
Nice.
For as much torsional rigidity as possible.
Yeah.
So I'm really, and I want to thank everybody who's sort of been involved in the Allegro project and stuck with it. And it is my most popular project car. It's the one that more people ask.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the one that more people ask about than anything else.
Interesting.
And it's the one that on Instagram gets the most attention, I'd say. That and then the Dodge. But weirdly, when I put a video out on the Dodge, which I've only ever done 2, maybe 3, it's not very popular to watch. People just want to look at pictures.
I wonder if the algorithm punishes Dodge Charger because there's lots of Dodge Charger videos out there, because lots of people in the US have them and talk about them, and then Allegro's not so much. So
it could be that
you're kind of in a field of one or thereabouts. I don't know who else would do Allegro videos. Maybe Hubnut or something, but has he done one?
He will have done an Allegro video. And there's that guy, I don't know if he's got a YouTube channel, there's a fantastic guy in New Zealand who bought a really good condition Allegro and is converting it to EV with Nissan Leaf drivetrain.
Oh,
and he's doing a really good job from what I can see.
Wow.
It's a red one.
Oh, okay.
And I've been following it on Twitter. And it is really cool. I'm quite interested. And it seems to fit quite nicely, the Leaf drivetrain and charging system. So there's some project car excitement for 2024.
You've just got distracted because there's a picture of 2 Omegas on my screen.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yes, I was just looking at if there's any listeners' messages we want to read out, and a chap here, I don't know whether
it's not a Cadillac Catera, is it?
No, it's not. I'm not going to say these people's name. They've not said don't.
Oh well, then say it.
All right. Well, a guy's called Pete. It's Pete and Kim. but then there's an asterisk that says the Northern Saxo-owning serial Johnny harasser.
Oh yeah, I know those guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
they came to the Retro Rides show, and they're displayed in our Late Break Show enclosure.
Okay. Well, they sent this message the other day which said, "You've discussed ex-police cars before. Thought you might like to see the state of the drive after yesterday's arrival."
Oh.
2 late model.
2
Omegas, but it says both ex-police Omegas, both very high miles. I've had the grey one for over a decade. It's my favourite thing in the world. Purple one landed yesterday. Is scabby, rotty, non-running, but the only one left in this spec. If I ever get it finished, I'll let you know. No, he doesn't say what the spec is. Frustrating,
wow.
But that looks like it's got the big 5-spoke wheels in it. Like that's the elite wheels, I think.
So is that a 3.2 Manuel?
I would guess maybe so.
Oh man,
well, I don't know. I haven't written back to ask. I'll ask for more info. Maybe we'll come back to this. But I love the way that as I was spooling through, the Omegas popped up, and you immediately went, "Whoa!" like a meerkat. Those Omegas.
I do miss we're recording this podcast the day after our live event. Our live show at Stellantis HQ, and I've been gifted an Alfa Giulia to drive home in.
Oh yeah,
and it's sitting out in the car park, and it's a dewy cool morning. And I just looked out at it and went, by Jove, that is a handsome car.
Yeah, we were just saying before we started recording, I was not sure about the Giulia when it came out. I thought it wasn't quite pretty enough for an Alfa Saloon. Not a 156 or a 159, which I think are both very good-looking cars. But it's weathered in nicely.
Yeah.
I actually quite like how understated it is now, because it's not as sort of flashy and baroque as some other sort of medium saloon. But we were also talking about, my brother sent me the other day a Giulia Quadrifoglio.
Oh my
for
gosh.
31 grand.
Oh my gosh. In the colour.
And it's grey and it looks fantastic, and it's got 60,000 miles on it, but it's had new brakes and full Alfa service history. And someone we know who works within the Alfa Romeo or Stellantis organisation said to us on the quiet that reliability-wise they're actually all right.
I love the fact that on the quiet they say,
I know,
it's a reliable car. What in case Alfa Romeo owners go, what?
We didn't even ask, but he just proffered this information when I said, bloody hell, my brother was thinking about buying this relatively cheap Giulia Quadrifoglio. I think he's bottled out, much though I encouraged him, and much though my brother loves an Italian car, as a Bath 500 owner and a coupe Fiat owner. But
he's got a Fiat coupe.
Yeah, and he's always saying he's going to get rid of it, and then he just doesn't, because I think he sort of...
It's a cool car.
Yeah.
What I would say is, and I put this on social media, I'd love listeners to mull it over, is the fact that I think the Giulia is the prettiest four-door saloon on sale at the moment.
Ooh.
It's the... No, I'm speaking fact, Richard. You can't.
All right. Well, I'm trying to think. No, there must. I'm sure we're overlooking something else. I mean, it's not the C class is all right looking,
but Merc are not.
But not pretty.
Merc are not.
Merc don't make pretty cars
high.
generally.
No, they're a bit soap bar at the moment, aren't they?
The Audi A4 is again not pretty, and they sort of. I think they fudged the detailing when they updated that car, because they sort of did that thing where they deleted the mid bit of the groove down the side, like the sort of Disco 4, but not as good. What else? A 3 Series is terrible at the moment, isn't it? Really, relative to it's not the worst.
It's not the worst BMW, but it's not the best they've done.
Jag XE is still on sale, and I still think that's a nice looking car.
Yeah, I always preferred the XF though.
In the current old XF, yes, but no, current XF I think looks like, again, we're sort of down to like Defender 110 versus 130. I think the XF looks like a sort of crudely extended XE. And I think the XE is really pretty car. Like the proportions are great, and it's got that little ducktail sort of.
Yeah, that's true. It's the subtleties.
It's a subtle. I think it's a subtle car, but I think particularly in the right spec on good wheels, the XE is an underrated, good-looking car.
And that's where we need to talk as well. The Giulia has amazing wheel choices. There's no duff wheels.
Yes,
All the wheels are good, and it means a lot to me. A good wheeled car.
Yeah, and
it's men wearing a good suit with shit shoes. It's like, come on.
No, it's true. The wheels are good. I'm trying to think. I feel like we're missing something really obvious. That's an incredibly good-looking four-door saloon. But what would that be anymore?
There's not. Well, we are looking at that Omega. The reason why I brought this subject up is because I really miss rear-wheel drive saloons from normal manufacturers that aren't kind of really premium people.
So the Giulia you've got is the Competizione, and that's like a sort of mid-model, isn't it? I think there's Veloce, Competizione, and that's it, and then the QV. But we sort of forget that there are Giulias, and they're just 2-litre 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
Normal. So
You
could
mass
probably
volume.
have one on your company car scheme if it's on there kind of car.
But please,
but few people do.
For goodness sake, buy these cars, because if you don't buy them, they'll never make them again. In the same way that I'm still upset with Honda for announcing that they're discontinuing the E, when really all the E needed was another battery-sized version.
Oh, I just thought of a good-looking four-door saloon. Mazda 3.
Oh,
and Mazda 6, actually. That's a nice-looking car.
6 has always been pretty good.
Yeah,
and again, it underplays it.
Yeah.
It's
it's a car that you can look at for a bit and get new stuff out of it, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. Dear Alpha, can you park a Giulia outside my house for the next 9 months? I'd say for most of 2024, and I'll just observe it whenever I open the curtains and just ponder and go, yes.
Well, that's always a nice thing, isn't it, when one of your neighbours gets a nice car, like as in a car that's nice to look at.
Yeah,
I can't think of when the last time that happened to me.
Where my office is, somebody that works on the farm has a C4 cactus citron.
That's funny. I was about to say that.
Really?
Yeah, because my mate Paul across the road from us, when I lived in London, got a C4 cactus. Not a pretty car, but a car that pleased me to see.
Oh, as a design piece. And this particular cactus, I was going to say cacti, but there was only one of them, has got the 4-spoke alloys and a large amount of suspension travel.
Yeah.
And it's in dark green, so it's sort of country set colour.
Interesting.
And honestly, even if I'm driving by in like that GTS Boxster, I still clock the cactus and go, I like that. Yeah. It's a great piece of design, and people don't expect me to like it. Because non-car people go, why on earth are you like giving that the eye? I'm like, because it's a good piece of design. I want one.
My wife very actively and aggressively hated the C4 cactus when I borrowed one. She thought it was stupid, starting with the bubble thing on the outside.
But it's not stupid.
And then she was like, what's all this? It's got those kind of straps and leathery details on the inside. She was like, what's all this? She was absolutely disdainful of that car when I borrowed one when it came out. But
it's such a shame. I mean,
I liked it, but
I dig it.
I guess, did it not sell very well? I don't know. It's my friend Paul, who bought one in London, bought a second-hand one. He's not particularly into cars, but he really likes car design. Like, he's fascinated by it. Like, he buys books about car design, but he doesn't kind of
really.
Yeah, but he wouldn't. He's
not interested in owning the cars.
No, he's not. Well, no, I suppose not. He would buy, if he was extremely wealthy and had land, he probably would just buy cars and park them to look at them. He wouldn't be interested in driving them. He's not particularly keen driver. He's not genuinely not a keen driver at all. Like, he'd rather not drive.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, what a fascinating point.
Yeah, no, he particularly around London, he hated driving. He'd often just get his wife to drive and he'd passenger because he just found it so tiresome. But if you went, oh look, there's if I said to him, let's go to Italy and go to the Alfa Romeo Museum, he'd be there like a shot because he'd love to look at the design of the cars. He's just one of those people who appreciates them for objects. And so, he was, when they needed a new family car, they had a Punto, which again, he only sanctioned because he was like, it's the best looking small car. The Grande Punto and all of those.
Fantastic.
And then when they needed something new, he just no one else in the family had any say. He had he was like, this is what I want to get. This is my short list. And then his wife was going to me, what about these? And he'd be in the background, no, we're not getting one of those, looks boring.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't give a shit about if I went, no, they're very reliable.
Or the engine's terrible.
Yeah, it didn't matter. He just wanted a car that he found aesthetically interesting, and that was the C4 Cactus.
If he likes a Grande Punto, I'm trying to think, I can't remember exactly the timings that this podcast comes out versus my late break show videos, but there's a barn find Mark 1 Capri coming up over the Christmassy period, and off camera we didn't record this. About 3 garages down, because there's a gang of garages, opposite the housing type thing. A bloke just got clocked that we were filming there for the day, and he went, "Oh, you're into cars, are you?" Yeah. Well, my late father left me this. I just don't know what to do with it. Opened the garage up, and it was a Grande Punto. The dad had owned it from new. It had done 15,000 miles.
Oh my God.
And it was 2010 plate, 2009. And I just said, does it run? He goes, yeah. He just got in it and turned the key just to prove to me. And it just sat there. And I went, what are you going to do with it? He goes, don't know, probably sell it for 800 quid. And I'm like, so we all just suddenly stopped filming and went, well, I mean, it's not exotic.
No.
And it's not collectible.
No.
But it's a 15,000 mile. It's got tons of energy and life left in it.
Yeah.
And you just think, and he, because he lives in London, this chap just doesn't drive and use it. And he can't quite know what to do with it. And I was like, that's really, those cars are still out there.
Yeah,
actual deceased spec.
There's deceased spec, isn't it? That's
Real
very
deceased
spec. That's good. Funnily enough, talking to Mark 1 Capri, I was the other night. When my wife was out, I was just like, I just put the kids to bed, and I couldn't be bothered to think of anything to watch. So I just stuck on some old Seinfeld because they're on Netflix. And it's like I couldn't watch those endlessly. And there's this episode where they're standing on the street corner. I guess it's the New York street set at where do they shoot Seinfeld? Warner's lot. I can't remember.
Was it in LA?
Yeah, it was all done in LA.
Was it? They never went to New York at all?
No, I don't think so.
That feels so false.
Yeah, well, Friends is the same, isn't it? Friends was all shot in LA.
Stop it! You're shattering the dream.
And they're standing on the New York street corner at night, Kramer and Elaine, waiting for George and Jerry, and there's a whole scene of them standing there. And then, so the street is obviously dressed. One of the things about Seinfeld is if you look at when they've got a street scene, they dress it. Seinfeld used to leave one of his cars in there sometimes. There'd be one of his Porsches or something.
Oh, really?
You'd often see an interesting Porsche in the back of shot. And in this case, they're standing there, and suddenly a car just drives through in the background for a bit of interest. And I went, I think that was a Mark 1 Capri. I had to stop and rewind to check it was a bloody yellow Mark 1 Capri. I'm sure of it.
Because they called it a Mercury Capri, didn't they, then?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
But it was sold in the US briefly. Weirdly, alongside, they already had the Mustang, but I guess over there the Capri would be like a little sort of junior Mustang.
That's right. I don't think they're that sought after.
No, probably not.
So they're misunderstood, I suppose, because culturally Americans don't really care about it like we did, because they already had the Mustang, right?
Yeah, and it had a V6, so it was just not as good as a V8 Mustang, I suppose. Or even, in fact, a straight 6 Mustang, because straight 6 beats V6.
Come on.
No, it does though, but it does.
Okay, how about this? If you had the choice of a Mustang 2 with a V8 or a full-fat Mark 1 Capri 3-litre Manuel, what would you go for?
All right. Yeah, but that's not straight 6 versus
because
V6,
the Mark 1 Capri is actually a good looking car.
Yeah,
The Mustang 2 does.
Yeah, has this Mark 1 Capri got a black bonnet?
If you want it to, give me half an hour with a rattle around the back.
Yeah, some blackboard paint. It's yours. No, I see what you mean. No, even that. That's not a particularly brilliant V6, is it?
It's heavy. It's very heavy.
Essex V6 is a bit shite.
I know that.
But
back in the day, you've got to say back in the day. When you talk about Capris, you've got to instantly say back in the day, and then regale a story about a mate who got the back end out in the ice.
Well, my mate. I had 2 friends when I was in sixth form who had Capris, which is weird because it was the 90s. They were so unfashionable.
They were really unfashionable.
But there was one because one of my friends, his dad used to drink in a pub in town there's a used car dealer used to come in, and one day he just said to him, like, my boy is learning to drive and his car was automatic. He went, I need a cheap manual car for him to learn in, and then he can drive himself to school in it as well. He doesn't have to get the bus anymore. And this bloke went, I've got just the thing. Dark blue Capri 1.6.
Sweet.
And then, bizarrely, another friend of ours, I think their next door neighbour was an older chap, and he decided to treat himself to a new Skoda Favourite.
Oh.
And the Skoda dealer didn't want his old car as a trade-in because because it was an orange Capri 1.6. Yeah, which obviously had some major sill work done or something, because it had been, people used to paint sort of matte black paint along the sills like an old trawler. Tar.
It's like an old trawler boat.
And it was this old fella who lived next door to them was a heavy smoker.
Oh.
And my mate's dad went next door to go and get the keys and go on. I think he just gave it to him. He just went, "You can have it." So
Wow.
if your boy wants that,
It's heavily smoked in Capri.
Yeah. So my mate got home and was like, "Oh, Capri's outside. Is it mine?" And his dad went, "You cannot drive that car unless you're naked, because you will stink forever." It's absolutely. They just left it. They moved it onto their drive and left it with the doors and windows open, like all day on a Saturday, just to try and air it out. It was absolutely stank. Yeah. But free car when you're 17. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it is.
And he drove around. I can't remember what happened to the orange Capri. I know once one of the wipers failed on a very rainy night, which was quite interesting. But I think maybe it just failed its MOT and had to go.
It'll be crusty.
The blue Capri, my other mate, whose dad bought it from a used car dealer in a pub, that got stuffed into the side of a lorry due to a spicy exit from a T-junction in the wet. And he just absolutely tried to beat this oncoming lorry out into the right side of the road, and then it just fishtailed, and he went head on into the side of the lorry he just tried to beat coming. Yeah, spun round up into a hedge.
Dead.
Capri. Dead. He was okay, fortunately.
There were a lot of Capris in my college.
Were there?
Yeah, I remember lots of Capris. Yeah. There were lots of Capris in Somerset.
I suppose, but that's the thing. They were just
cheap.
They were just landfill at that point, weren't they? So they're probably they're very.
They were laughed at.
Yeah,
Forget that we genuinely in the 90s you would just laugh at a Capri. It would be so. I mean, there are certain terms which are probably on PC now, which we used to use, but
we used to. I remember giving one of our mates, I think it was my friend who got the blue Capri, because he was one of the oldest in the year, so he learned to drive quite early doors, and the Capri turned up when he learned to drive. And we used to give him a lot of shit. Like, he passed his test. We used to give him a lot of shit about, like, going, he'd be driving us somewhere and we'd go, "Could you just park around the corner so people don't see us getting out of the Capri?" So I think eventually he went, "Do you want a lift to the pub or not?"
Yeah.
Because if it was not, then we weren't going to the pub we wanted to go to, because none of the rest of us could drive. So it's a bit like, "Okay, we'll shut up." A car's a car when you're 17. It's better than nothing.
It absolutely is. And I there was a certain look to a Capri driver back then.
Yes.
And I think it's akin to Begbie from Trainspotting round my way. It was a scrawny guy, he looked a bit fighty.
Yeah.
And if you stared at him in the wrong way, he would be at you.
Yeah.
And he drove a Capri.
Yes.
He probably had a drink problem as well. Yeah. Or a gambling problem that he didn't want to talk about.
And now we sort of look at 2.8 injections and 3 litre Capris and you go, "Oh, they're so cool." But like, even they weren't. It didn't matter the engine. A Capri was just a Capri. They were shit. And also, I remember, because Car Magazine was my Bible back then, and Car Magazine said they were crap and outdated. So it's like, well, then they are.
Then they are.
Which they were.
It's going to be,
this all comes back around, doesn't it?
Well, it's nostalgia, isn't it, mate?
What did I say? I said to someone the other day, we talked about an older car, and I said, "How does it drive?" And he went, "Doesn't matter."
Yeah.
So it's an old car. Of course, it's going to drive like an old car. But like, don't start doing like a sort of group test. No, it doesn't matter. The perspective is different.
It really is. And I was walking around this auction room filming the other week, and there was an immaculate black XR2 Fiesta Mark 1. So it was 1982, so over 40 years old.
And they look great, don't they? They sit really nicely.
Nicely sharp edges, and it had been painted well, and it had all that faded decals on the lower doors. But you looked inside it, and you just went, "Oh gosh, that looks awful." And you'd think, how's this going to drive? The chances are it's going to drive badly.
Oh god, yeah.
But
horrible engine.
Someone's going to pay nearly 20k for this car.
Was that what it was up for?
It was an estimate, 16 to 20 for an immaculate, even the original twin knob radio.
Okay.
4-speed, and you just go, you are, like you just said then, you're not buying this car.
No.
For its driving dynamics, because it's 40 something years old.
That will drive worse than. Well, way worse than a 205 GTI or an Uno Turbo, but worse than an MG Metro as well. MG Metro would be quite fun, I think, but I think that Fiesta that's Ford's so good at trimmings to make cars look great. Those pepper pot wheels, the round lights, the graphics, everything just It sits beautifully, but absolute dog shit.
You're buying that because it's a time warp, and you're also buying it because everywhere you stop and park and refuel, everyone's going to go, bloody hell. Well, I've not seen one of them.
Yeah, not everyone. Middle-aged men, mostly.
All right, okay. Yeah, it will be men of a certain age.
If you want to attract young men, drive a BMW M2, I noticed when I had one on test a few months ago.
Did you get a lot of looks?
Yeah, but all young men.
Yeah.
Exclusively, just young blokes.
Well, listen, all those young blokes who are going to buy those on the tick, can you just go and buy Giulia QVs instead?
Well, no, because in a way you don't want them to be sort of in that bracket where they're driven in a fluty way around a town centre. You want them to be a connoisseur's choice. I think the QV has found its audience, and it is sadly quite small, but it is an audience of connoisseurs.
Do you know what QV stands for?
Yes, but go on anyway.
Quality vehicle. I've just bought the Alpha quality vehicle. It is a quality vehicle.
Do my Belinda Carlisle.
She's so fluttery. She flies away in the wind like a leaf.
Love her tremulous voice. Fergal Sharkey's a bit like that as well.
Yeah.
I wonder if he should have a quality.
There's another kind of flutterer about Buddy Holly was quite fluttery.
Yeah, he was quite fluttery, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly didn't live to see the Alfa Romeo quality vehicle. We should wrap this up because this is you've got better things to do. It's almost Christmas or thereabouts. There'll be no podcast next week because it's Christmas Day next Monday. So
don't worry, we've nearly done this shit for 4 years.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Already, at least.
I suppose I'm not going to do 3 things because I've forgotten to prepare anything. But so I was just going to say instead, thank you ever so much to everyone who's listened to this all year.
Yeah.
We saw the other week people putting their Spotify's roundup things up, and there's a lot of people who've listened to a lot of this, and we do have to counsel you against that. There is a threshold after which it may cause brain damage, but we do appreciate your continued custom, and particularly to our patrons who've stuck with us. And in the new year, we're going to have some new merch. Oh, we have hats already. Have we mentioned that already? We've got new hats.
Well, let's mention it again in the word, because they're good quality. We've picked a quality beanie.
They are actually really good.
They're lined, embroidered. They're a lovely, sweet piece, good for a Cabrio Helms person. So,
if you've heard our merchandise song at the end of many podcasts, we have now decided to do hats, and the song has been updated accordingly. Probably won't do pies or ties in the near future, but there will be some other merch stuff coming in the new year, and we will do more live shows in the new year as well. We are still desperately trying to find somewhere in Scotland that we can do one, and we also hope to get to Dublin or thereabouts at some point in 2024.
And one other thing to say is, if you do enjoy this podcast, which presumably you do if you keep listening to it, otherwise you're just punishing yourself. We always forget to say, leave feedback. Please leave us a star rating on whatever platform you listen to this on, because apparently all that shit counts.
Yeah.
So please do it.
Please do, and subscribe if that's a possibility on your podcast providing platform. And do write to us, hello@smithandsniff.com. We do, as we proved by reading live a message about Omegas, we do read all your emails. We're just very rubbish at replying or reading them out, but they do get seen. Don't think they just go into some dank void. I promise every word is read, and we do get some great emails. In fact, in the new year we should probably we always say, we'll just do a whole show of listeners' messages, and then we don't, because we start talking.
We're idiots.
Bobbins. I don't get around to it, but we will do that. So wherever you are in the world, if it's cold, go and buy one of our hats. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, enjoy your summer. But thank you for listening this year. Happy Christmas, happy holidays, happy Festivus, whatever you celebrate at this time of year. We hope you have a good one. And
Season's greetings
of a lovely, mature cheddar. And we'll see you for more of this. We're back on the 1st of January. We'll play you our Q&A session from the Stellantis gig. And then we'll see you again for normal service on the 8th. But until then, goodbye.
Thanks then.
Mugs, t-shirts, stickers. Mugs, t-shirts, stickers. Mugs, t-shirts, stickers. And now we do hats too. They're very stylish. This may come as a surprise, but Smith and Sniff have merchandise. You won't believe your eyes. Smith and Sniff have merchandise. Sadly, we don't do pies, but Smith and Sniff have merchandise. One day we might sell ties. Smith and Sniff have merchandise.
Cheers then, mate. Thanks then. Thanks then. Cheers, mate.
You fumbled the catchphrase.
I'm an idiot.